Before there was an England, there was Britain. Imagine, if you will, a wild green island wrapped in mist and mystery. This wasn't one kingdom, not at all. It was a patchwork of territories, a chaotic and vibrant collection of tribes. These people are often called the Celts, though honestly they wouldn't have called themselves that. They were the Iceni, the Catuvellauni, the Brigantes, and well, dozens more. Each tribe had its own king or queen, its own customs, and its own fierce pride. They were farmers, sure, but they were also artists. They crafted breathtaking jewelry from gold and bronze, with intricate patterns swirling on shields and torques. Life was tough, tied to the seasons and the soil, but it was their own. These were not simple people living in mud huts. Well, okay, some did, but that's not the whole story. They built incredible hill forts, massive earthwork fortresses that dominated the landscape. Think of Maiden Castle in Dorset. It's huge. These weren't just for defense. They were bustling centers of trade, community, and power. Their spiritual world was just as rich and complex. So why did the Romans, with their vast and powerful empire, bother with this misty, troublesome island on the very edge of the known world? The story really begins with one very famous, very ambitious man, Julius Caesar. In 55 BC, Caesar made a brief expedition to Britain. In 54 BC, he made a second brief expedition. These weren't full-blown invasions, more like military reconnaissance missions. They aimed to punish British tribes for helping his enemies in Gaul, modern France. He wanted to see what was there, and more importantly, he wanted the glory. Returning to Rome with tales of conquering the strange, painted Britons was fantastic PR. Caesar's reports back to Rome were electrifying. He spoke of a land rich in resources, gold, silver, lead. There were valuable commodities, grain, cattle, hunting dogs, and crucially, pearls. The Romans loved luxury. British pearls were tantalizing. But beyond wealth, Britain had strategic and symbolic importance. Romans liked tidy, controllable borders. An unconquered Britain so close to Gaul was a messy loose end. Then in 43 AD, Emperor Claudius needed a spectacular victory. The official end came in 410 AD. The time was right. The real invasion began. The arrival of the Roman fleet must have been an apocalyptic sight for the British tribes watching from the cliffs of Kent. Imagine it. Hundreds of ships. Not the small leather and wood boats they were used to, but huge Roman galleys, packed with soldiers in gleaming armor. When those soldiers disembarked, the shock would have been immense. These were not wild, screaming warriors. They were the most disciplined, organized, and ruthless. The initial reaction from the British tribes was fragmented. Some, like Caraticus of the Catuvellauni, chose fierce resistance. Meet Boudicca, queen of the Iceni tribe in what is now East Anglia. The Romans ignored the will and declared his kingdom Roman property. When Boudicca protested, she was publicly flogged. Her 2 young daughters were raped. They had unleashed a storm of vengeance. Cassius Dio described Boudicca as very tall, with a harsh voice and a huge mass of red hair to her hips. She wore a golden necklace. She wore a multicolored tunic. She wore a thick cloak. Leading from her war chariot, she was an electrifying goddess-like sight. Her army, swollen with thousands, descended on Camulodunum, Colchester. The rebels burned Camulodunum to the ground and slaughtered its people. Archaeologists still find a thick red layer of burned debris from Boudicca's attack. Boudicca, defeated, is said to have taken poison rather than be captured. Her rebellion was over. After Boudicca's rebellion was crushed, Rome tightened its grip. The next 3 centuries saw Britain become a thoroughly Romanized province. By the late 4th century, the Roman Empire was in deep trouble. Rome began pulling troops out of quieter provinces. The official end came in 410 AD. Romano-British towns facing raids from Picts, Scotti, and Saxons sent a desperate plea to Emperor Honorius. His reply was stark: look to your own defenses. The Roman way of life fell apart with astonishing speed. People abandoned urban centers and retreated to the countryside. Into this power vacuum came new groups. First as mercenaries hired by British warlords. They were the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes. They were about to write the next chapter, the birth of England.